Hi guys, I'm Chandler.
I'm Demi.
Today we saw a video online of giving two different perspectives on
Our love story.
just the build up to get there, but not being able to hear the other perspective. And so what we're gonna do is we have headphones here. We're gonna have one person put them on, listening to music, while the other person
Giving their side of the story.
Yeah.
So my first impression of Chandler, blonde hair, blue eyes. He looks like a prince from a Disney movie. I had a boyfriend when we first met, so that was kind of off limits for me. But I could see from the very beginning that he's a super hard worker, and we had a lot in common. We actually ended up doing a conspiracy and true crime podcast together. He's super adventurous, and yeah, that was my first impression.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. So my first impression was, so she joined the same real estate team as I did. The first day they asked her what her favorite movie was, and it was American Psycho. And I'm kind of into the conspiracy route, all that stuff, and so that was my first kind of eyebrow raise. But overall, she seemed a little, not quiet, but just confident in who she was, but not super over the top, and just focused on what she was doing, and very elegant and very beautiful. But she also was in a relationship, so in my head I turned it into a friendship right from the get-go. So that's probably the overall quick version of my first impression.
So we got together, like I said, we worked on the same real estate team. We did a podcast together with our other friend. And so we were friends for, I want to say like a year and a half before we ever started dating. I had a boyfriend, and we just used to he was always my accountability partner. So I remember when we were on the same real estate team, we'd be accountability partners. We actually had accountability contracts that we would sign, usually for stuff that was work related, gym and diet. So we would write out our goals and we would sign accountability contracts and text each other. We used to go to the gym. He used to go like 4, I used to go at 5. So we would hold each other accountable daily. Since we were on the same, real estate team and talked business a lot, we did a lot of business planning together. And so that was always like a strong foundation for us, which was great. But yeah, when I broke up with my ex, it was kind of just like a natural transition into us dating because we already kind of had that foundation. So
this was not your typical go on a first date and get to know each other. One thing I always kind of would say to family or friends is I bet I end up with someone that's a really good friend, or someone that I've worked with, something that they're able to get to understand who I am before the dating ever comes, just because I'm a little hard to warm up to. It takes me a while to really open up to somebody. And so we were able to work with each other for a couple of years. But again, like I said, she was in a committed relationship and I was on and off dating. And so it was just built a friendship upon seeing how each other worked, our work ethic. We got to see how each other's minds worked. We got to have something we like together to talk about, like conspiracies and just those life questions. Cut to the chase was she was getting out of her relationship, and I just got out of a relationship that was painful. And I was kind of starting to get the vibes that she was into me more than just friends, but I was still very on guard. One, because I don't want to be that guy that just jumped all over somebody that just got out of a relationship, especially one that's been a 3-year coming to an end. And so it happened quickly, but it was also coming from a place of we both had a very clear idea of what we wanted, and we already had that foundation of friendship and understanding who we were. So it was a very quick little transition, but it made a lot of sense very quickly.
I feel like the ball was probably more in my court just because I was just getting out of a relationship. So Chandler was super respectful. He never pressured me he was actually very careful. He didn't really show any interest in me until me and my ex officially broke up, and then even after that he was pretty hesitant just because me and my ex had been together for a long time and it was a big deal, and so he was just super careful. So when we did start, talking more as more than friends, I feel like we were interested in each other equally, but he was treading very lightly, and so I was actually the one that made the first move and kissed him first. So I don't think that means that I liked him anymore. I just think that he was super respectful, and I knew that I wanted to be more than friends. I didn't want to miss out on an opportunity to be with him, so I went for it.
That is a good question. I don't know. This one's a tricky one. Just like I said, because it was so abnormal. I think she liked me more from the get-go, but not because I didn't like her, but because I put on those blinders and just basically friend zoned myself. I didn't even friend zone myself. It wasn't even an option to be not friend zoned. I was just her friend. And so from what she's told me over that time of knowing each other, she had some kind of attraction towards me, but never understood really what it was. But I would say once we were both clear on where we were at, once we're both out of those relationships, I don't know. I I can hear it going. I would say, I don't know. I'd have a hard time believing she liked me more than I liked her, but I feel like there was a good equal balance on that end, just because of how well we communicated and the similarities that we have in who we are as people, but also understanding of where we're coming from at the same time from past experiences.
So if we would have never met, my life would be completely different than it is right now. I was in a relationship before for about 3 years, and then my life was pretty chaotic in those 3 years. I struggled really hard with alcohol, and my life was just kind of a disaster. I was not very happy and struggling a ton with anxiety and depression and just alcohol. And so that was a big part of the reason why I felt like I had to end my last relationship. So I don't know. I don't know what would have happened at that point in my life if I wouldn't have, decided to be with Chandler. I would have had to go back out into the dating world, which sounds absolutely awful to me. I hate dating, and then being sober on top of that, trying to date, sounds terrible. So if we wouldn't have met, I wouldn't be married now. I would be hopefully still sober, but he definitely keeps me, on track in my sobriety, and I think he's a huge part of the reason why I am still sober. So who knows? I just know that it would have been very, very difficult if I hadn't have met him.
This one's a weird one to think about. It's a scary one to think about, honestly. So before meeting her, I found myself almost self-sabotaging myself because of the lack in direction I felt I was going when it came to dating. I'd really try and date somebody, but it felt like all the girls that had their heads on straight, I just couldn't connect with for some reason, Maybe it's just because I'm a little awkward or a little quiet or whatever it may be. And so I'd end up dating girls that were definitely, I knew from the get-go, weren't marriage material, but it was a way of kind of filling in those holes that you have in your heart, if that makes any sense. And I felt myself just caring less and less and having less hope in my heart the longer I went in the dating game. And so it's always cheesy, when people talk about like the person they marry is like their love of their life, but I can honestly say that she's the most perfect person I've ever met that matches with me, from everything from how we think about life and having discussions about religion to work ethic and being able to bounce ideas off each other on the entrepreneur side, to how we communicate with each other, to understanding each other's past and where we've come from and having that empathy towards each other, to the fact that I absolutely love her family and my family, and she loves my family, and it's just a good connection overall. And so to think about not ever meeting someone like her, I thought I would be, I'll say this, I noticed a lot of marriages were people that got pressured into marrying, and they loved them, but they're not in love, if that makes sense. You know, the glass was half full for them, where you could tell that they loved them and it was better than being alone, but it wasn't fulfilling more than that, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, I'm very grateful and I'm very lucky to have her. So that's all I'll say.
Try not to get cheesy and cry. So many reasons. A few of the main ones, I would have to say, in the past I've had, you know, situations happen that really hurt me and made me feel very unsafe. And Chandler's like the first person that goes out of his way to make me feel safe. I've also spent a lot of my life fighting to be heard, not just to have a voice, but to actually have somebody that genuinely cares what I have to say. He's the most caring person, and he's just super thoughtful. He goes out of his way to make sure that I know that he's thinking about me and that he's gonna care for me. He makes it a point to, you know, rub my back or my feet every single day, and he's super attentive. He's always asking me if I need anything. Vice versa, I feel like he's been super hurt in the past and has some deep wounds, and I just want to be the person there to patch him up. He's my partner in crime. I love that it's literally Thanksgiving today and we're here making videos because it's fun for us and we just enjoy spending time together. And last weekend we spent a whole day, you know, planning out our goals for 2020, and he's my best friend. He is literally my best friend.
I think I'll tie this into kind of how I talked about the last one, where one, obviously the physical attraction and mental attraction you have for each other was very apparent very quickly, but also how we communicated through certain things. You know, she had her ex that obviously, you know, got mad when they broke up, and a natural thing to do, but just how we communicated through that and being able to communicate through insecurities that we have or obstacles that we have, to be able to push each other, you know, when we need to be pushed, but also be willing to step back when the other person needs some space. I knew very quickly with her, which is crazy, you know, because I remember very early on I told her I loved her, and it kind of hit me, and I had to question myself and go, wait, do you actually love her? Or are you just saying that? And I remember asking, you know, family or friends in previous years, like, how do you know you're in love? You know, when they would ask, have you ever been in love before? And I would say, I don't know. I definitely have cared for other girls I've dated, but I don't know if I could actually say I've been in love. But with her, it's just so clear. You know, it was just so clear so quickly, which was so crazy to me because I never thought I'd ever be able to get to that place with somebody. And so I love the fact that she's able to pursue what she's going for, and she does it in a very direct way. You know, once she decides to do something, she does it. And just knowing her history and what she's been through and the story that she has, but still is willing to not be a victim and still goes at it every day with the fire that she has, and is able to pick me up when I need to be picked up, but is also willing to let me pick her up when she needs to be picked up. And the balance that we have with each other, I mean, there's so much to it. It's just I love who she is, not only physically, like I said, and her appearance, but more deeply on who she is as a person and how her mind works and how she pursues life. So I'd say that's kind of my summary of that, I guess. So okay. Thanks so much for watching, guys.
Thank
if you
you.
watched it, I guess subscribe, comment, subscribe, like.
See you next time.
Yeet.